Welcome to Jennifer with Coffee, a mindset podcast for people who are looking for real change. I'm Jennifer Lauer, writer, yogi, and fitness fanatic. Lately, I've been having lots of coffee meetups, long, honest conversations that delve into mindset, identity, choices, and habits that shape our lives. I kept thinking how I wanted to share these conversations, so here we are. Each episode moves in 3 beats: an inspirational story, an interview with thinkers, builders, athletes, and artists, people who want to share their own transformations. And we'll end with a brief meditation to practice calming the nervous system. If you've been connecting with the stories and conversations here, I've also written some fiction that explore emotional spaces. One is an AI dystopia, and the others are part of a paranormal mystery series. So if you're ever curious, you can find them on my website, jenniferleelauer.com. Today's inspo story is about goal setting. I can't recall where I heard this, but it was somebody talking about the idea of creating a list of 5,000 goals, which just seems like an incredible amount. However, I really like this idea because what it does is it gets you out of the curation of your goals. So the idea is to make a list, whether it's in a notebook or your notes app, mine is in my notes app, where you write 5,000 goals. I'm just basically trying to write out every goal that I can think of, and I add to it all the time. I don't know how many there are on there. It just is kind of a limitless, ongoing list of goals. Sometimes it's just good to get it out of your head. Sometimes a goal falls off your list and you don't realize it, or you accomplish the goal and don't realize it, and you have already checked off 10 things from your list of 5,000. I like to keep a running list as a way of letting things go so they don't kind of ruminate in my head. This is your go ahead to making a list that can be as many as you like. But for some reason, the idea of 5,000 goals is this big, giant, limitless idea for me. Let me know how you do with your goals. Hope this helps. Thanks. And now for our interview. King Siu is a digital marketing and communications strategist and a professional wanderer and eater, aka travel and food content creator, who has managed to survive over 30 countries across 6 continents, mostly by eating everything in sight. If there's a weird street food stall in a dark alley, he's there. If locals say, "You probably shouldn't eat that," or "Don't go there," he's already walking down the mysterious alleyway and taking a bite. Toronto is technically home, but King is often spotted in Tampa and other random cities around the globe. He has also lived in Hong Kong, London, and Sydney. Basically, he has commitment issues with locations. You can connect with his marketing brain on LinkedIn at King Siu and his food and travel soul on Instagram at TravelEat.drink. and YouTube at TravelEatDrink. Here is our interview with King Siu. Hello, King. How did you get started doing the work that you do?
Okay, so that was a little bit by accident. I'd always just loved food and travel in general. One day, there was a client that I was working with that has a pretty big travel blog, or they had mentioned, "Oh, King, we've got too many trips coming up. Can we pay you to go to Egypt and blog about it for 2 weeks?" I'm like, "What?"
Nice.
So I'm lucky that that kind of fell into my lap that way. I mean, I'd always kind of just posted food and travel things, but I never did with a strategy. I never did it thinking I could monetize it because it's not something that anyone I knew sort of did. So yeah, I just kind of said yes to that and just kind of never looked back. And from anyone that wasn't as thick as I am would have realized at that point, maybe I should, this is something I can explore. Maybe it's something I can do. It did completely dawn on me. I just really enjoyed the trip. I worked really hard, hey, it's great. But then they did, lucky enough, send me on a few more trips after that. And I think it was after the fourth paid trip to some, because they sent me to Turkey, they sent me to Amalfi Coast. Like after Italy, that I suddenly realized maybe I should actually sort of build up my own channel here and
Yeah.
establish myself in the space and maybe potentially be able to have some kind of, a side hustle at the very least and, monetize some of this. And also because it's something I love, it's definitely something that I look back on and I'm like, I really should have realized this sooner. But Hey, better late than never, I guess, right?
Yeah. So what were you doing before you started doing travel?
The thing I actually still do now, because the travel's still on the side, is I'm in digital marketing communication strategy. And so that's what's always I've done. That's what I'm still doing as I continue to build out my travel and food. And it's true of most creators, like you see out there, like most of the ones that you think are doing this full time, they're not. They're doing something else to give them the opportunities to be able to create the food and travel. So it's one of the things I always emphasize to everyone. For most creators, it's not a quick journey. It's going to be a hard, long road. And so you really do need to love it. So anyone that just thinks it's just going to happen overnight, it does for some people, but for 99% of the people out there, it usually is years of work behind the overnight success, let's call it.
Yeah, you see people traveling to all of these exotic places, eating these interesting foods, and it just looks so glamorous. But yeah, I'm sure there's parts of it that are not so glamorous.
Yes.
Can you tell me about a time that you went through a transformation? This could be something that you went through during a trip or something in your life, a time where you went from one version of King to the next version.
I am gonna open up here like we're on Oprah or something
Okay.
and give you the biggest transformation, the one that actually started this all in the first place. Because while I've
Okay.
always liked food and travel, I wasn't always, that. Anyways, so my first career, just out of college, I was actually managing IT project for like
Okay.
one of the biggest banks in Canada on the Canadian version of Wall Street, and so it seemed like a dream job. I realized I was absolutely miserable, and you feel trapped because the responsible side of you says this is a great job, you should keep going on with this. I was working 60-hour weeks, I gained like 20 pounds, I was just absolutely miserable. I didn't see a way out. One day the sort of epiphany, I guess we'll call it, came when a friend of my sister's, who I'd known most of my life, hadn't seen me in a few years, and she saw me and she asked my sister, like, is King okay? Because there used to be this sparkle in his eye that was always there and it's gone now. She was like, it's like looking in the eyes of a dead person. I'm like, oh, that really sort of hit me and really brought the reality. Up until that point, I definitely feel like I made excuses because everything I did, it fit the mold of what we're supposed to do. You get a stable job, you get a stable company, like everything about it was great. But I realized I've always been a little bit wacky. I've always been a little bit unpredictable, and I've always been a little bit comfortable with chaos to some degree. Controlled chaos, not absolute chaos. It was one of those things where what do you do at that point? Because society encourages conformity. And also, I don't want to freak my parents out. Right now, they don't have to worry because they're like, oh, King's being responsible. He's got a stable job. But for what I kind of wanted to do, I'd probably end up living in a hollow tree. So it just, I was like, how am I going to tell the world this? But also, it's really coming down and having a serious discussion with myself of what I wanted, what did I want to do, regardless of whether or not I was qualified, what did I want? Because from there, then I figure out how do I get to what I want. And that's why I realized I wanted to do something in marketing communications. Like that was where I was more interested. Like even when I was doing my tech role, whenever I was meeting with the marketing team, I realized I'm like, oh, those meetings I perked up and I was like really getting into what they're talking about. But I also realized that no one's going to trust a tech guy to do PR work or whatever because that's
Mhm.
just not going to happen. In figuring out how I'm going to get there, I mean, the first thing was I had to quit my job, which, that was a lot to sort of come to terms with. I didn't tell anyone I was doing it just because I didn't need anyone to talk me out of it. Because once I realized I just needed to get out, because otherwise there was no way I was going to give up that life and the comfort of a really stable, high paycheck. And so I didn't tell anyone, decided to do it. But then I realized, okay, I need a plan. And so at that point, I decided to go back to school, get my master's in communications. So that way it gives me a level of trust and also gives a little bit of time to think. So anyone that's thinking of going to college and you're not totally sure, use that time to think because no one's going to bother you while you're in college because they're like, oh yeah, you do something responsible. Also, because I did like to travel, but I didn't have time to travel before because while I had the money to do it, I was working all the time, so I just didn't have time to travel. I actually managed to work travel into my plans because one of the programs that I looked at allowed me to do my final semester abroad. And so I ended up finishing off my master's in Australia. So I spent 6 months there. And all of that was sort of the beginning of my sort of travel bug, we'll call it. After that, I ended up moving to England and working there for a couple of years. And it kind of touched off a lot of interesting things that took a lot of soul searching, took a lot of planning, took a lot of, just being really honest with yourself. I find sometimes when people think of manifesting something, they're thinking, oh, I'll just light a candle and somehow I'll end up in Egypt eating something that might be camel. I don't know, right? But no, it's a process. I mean, it's really just being really honest with yourself, realizing are the things that you want to do things that you want to do or things that you're doing to make other people happy. What I thought I had my dream job there in tech, it wasn't my dream job. It was someone else's dream job. It was my parents' dream job for me. It was like, someone
Hmm.
else's dream job for me, but it wasn't the dream job for myself. Once I kind of realized that and sort of ignored the fact that I might disappoint someone. Well, actually, just accept that I'm going to disappoint someone all the time. So, hey, you know what?
That's great advice. Just be prepared to disappoint someone.
Exactly. Accept that. And you know what? Be disappointed in yourself if you don't disappoint someone at some point, because I'm sure there's some lesson in there about not taking chances or something like that. So who knows?
Yeah,
But that's
true.
almost wisdom.
So it seems like the catalyst was really that friend of your sister's that kind of brought to the surface something you were already processing underneath. But sometimes I feel like that's how it has to work, where someone externally has to reflect back to you
Mhm.
what you're already kind of struggling with internally. And then you're like, okay, I need a plan out of this.
Yeah, and I think it made a difference because it was someone I've known most of my life. And so that opinion really, like it was a stranger, I don't think it would have made as much of a difference. But
Right.
also someone that you respect, someone whose opinion you trust, it in a way almost gives you permission to
Mm.
to realize the things that because I thought it all in my head, but I thought, oh no, King, you're being irresponsible. You're just being lazy. Whatever. You're being selfish. Whatever. All those things that we tell ourselves, to keep ourselves on a track that may or may not have been created by us. Once again, when someone comes along who has no vested interest in anything other than your happiness, happens to mention something and you're like, wait a minute, again, it just gives you permission to bring those feelings and those thoughts back out that, oh, okay, maybe it's not just me being a little bit crazy, lazy, silly, selfish, whatever, and maybe I should pay attention to those. The kids listening now, don't worry about everyone's opinion so much because you know what? It doesn't matter. They don't think about you most of the
Mhm.
time. Ultimately, they don't need to live your life. So they can say whatever they want because the consequences aren't theirs. You need to live with your choices. So ignore the world. But I mean, don't do anything illegal though.
And do you feel like now that you've started following your own path, do you feel like you have a more meaningful connection to what you do? And has that changed from where you were when you were unhappy at the tech job? Like, what's changed internally? How are you feeling now?
Oh, I mean, I'm definitely much happier. I mean, I when I left that, I mean, oh, don't get me wrong, I still have moments of self-doubt. I remember sitting in London, living in a hostel, crouched in a fetal position, rocking back and forth, saying to myself, I used to m manage multi-million dollar IT projects, and now I live in a hostel. What have I done? So you will always get those moments. And you know what? Let yourself go through it because, hey, you got to feel those feelings. Kind of just contain them all. Eventually, they just burst out and it just gets ugly at that point. So let yourself go through that. But you know what? Have confidence in yourself that it'll be okay. You'll figure it out. You have figured out your life up until this point. You've kept yourself alive somehow. Even, I don't know how I've kept myself alive, but somehow it's worked. So just trust that you'll figure it out. It might not be perfect, but you'll figure it out. And so I'm definitely much happier. And I mean, it's a constant reminder too. Like I said, we all still have moments of insecurity. We still have moments of self-doubt, and we still, to some degree, do like to have the approval of those around us, right? But the problem is those around us, sometimes they have the best intentions because, I mean, ultimately they want to see you safe. They want to see you happy. They don't want to see you living in a hollow tree. So they'll often err on the side of caution with certain things that might not necessarily be what you need to hear, but it's what they feel safe telling you because they don't want to see anything bad happen to you. So unfortunately, I feel it comes from a place of caring, comes from a place of love. Be aware of that. I'm definitely much happier. It's weird to say I'm much more at peace with things. You only have so much energy, so devote to the things that matter.
What is the most daredevil thing you've done in your travels, would you say?
I don't know if how much you have you been to Rio?
I haven't, but it intimidates me after watching City of God.
Thank God I did not watch City of God before I went. I ended up in Rio de Janeiro and I lived in a favela, like similar to that movie, for a week in a hostel. Oh my God.
Whoa.
I thought in the first 24 hours, I literally thought I was gonna die. I write out my will and my goodwill. I'm like, oh God, like I don't think I'm gonna live. Like this is crazy. It's insane. I'm like, oh God.
What
Uh,
was crazy about it?
I mean, first of all, I stand out like a sore thumb. So
Okay.
so that doesn't help. I don't really speak the language, so that
Okay.
that doesn't help. Everyone did not look friendly. And really just didn't look like they wanted me there at all. So it's kind of like, oh, all right. And there are people that are armed that openly armed, and that's interesting too. And it's kind of like, and I realized that I'm like, oh, the police don't even come in here without a military escort. If I died here, no one will find me. It's
Oh
just,
my
I
gosh.
mean, it's
What got you there? Why did you go to that specific place to stay? You just read about the hostel
my
or
stupidity. No, actually, I was there with a friend who is Brazilian and who had
okay.
heard that this is a cool spot, and so I'm like, oh, I think I trust you, so let's go check it out. And also she'd done a lot of charity work in favelas before, and so she's I figured okay, it should be okay. I mean, but once again, had I watched City of God, I don't
For
think
people
so.
who have not seen City of God, this is your recommendation, but
Yeah.
it is a very specific view of Rio.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Violent, dark
It's
version.
in one of the biggest favelas there. And for anyone who doesn't realize what they are basically neighborhoods that are controlled by drug cartels. There is law and order, but not the same one that you think of. So, but there is an order to how things operate there. I mean, I was just glad that even my friend was kind of freaked out about the whole situation, even though this is not new to her. And she was like, oh dear God, like.
Oh no.
But it's okay. I mean, after the first day, nerves calmed down a little bit, and we started getting to know the people that worked in the hostel because they live in the neighborhood. And so
Right.
after we started getting to know them, then okay, and then after a while, I actually felt safer in the favela than I did in the streets of Rio. Just because, as they said, they don't necessarily want to cause trouble in their neighborhood because they don't want to draw attention to it. So when they go commit crimes, they just go out, they go to Rio to rob tourists.
Oh my God.
And the number of times we came back from somewhere, they're like, "Oh my God!" Especially like the famous beaches. They're like, what were you guys doing down there? Do you know how often like 20 or 30 guys from the favelas go down there, surround the tourists, and just rob them of everything that they've got?" I'm like, "Oh."
I'm
So
glad you told me that when I returned.
yeah, exactly. La 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 la. But I mean, just keep an eye out. It should more or less be fine. I mean, with most places, because I mean, I've been in some pretty sketchy places, but I'm not reckless with it. I
Mhm.
do my research. When I'm there, I'm very careful. Like, don't draw attention to yourself. Don't display wealth. All my diamonds, I'm leaving at home. So, just so the problem is when people go and they forget that they're in someone else's neighborhood, we'll call it, and then they
Sure.
try to, and oftentimes they'll do things that they won't even do back home and be careless about things. And I find when you're careless, that's when, trouble occurs. And also not knowing what you're getting yourself into. Read about wherever it is you're going, just to make sure that you give yourself a chance not to do something silly or make yourself a target. That's the other thing. Like, don't make yourself a target. And of course, be weary of any assistance that you didn't ask for. So if someone offers you help, immediately kind of, and I mean, most places people are just being very nice. Depending on where you are, sometimes that's someone looking to take advantage in some way. So just kind of have your guard up for anyone anyone who's offering help that you did not ask for.
I think that's good life advice as well. I think that's what you teach a child. An adult will never ask you for help. They can help themselves. So that red flag should go up.
Mhm.
But that's really interesting for travel as well. So I was thinking when you were talking about becoming a travel blogger and talking to your sister's friend, you mentioned that you had gained some weight. Now, King, I have to ask you because I've seen your amazing food reviews. What is your fitness regimen? How do you eat all of this like really good, yummy, greasy food and all of these yummy beers? I'm like, seriously, what is your workout regimen as a foodie who tries all of these really rich foods?
So that program is available for $39.95 a month. Sign up now. In the link. No. The other thing was a lot of stress and just eating just junk all the time and just not really thinking about it. For me, and also for a lot of the foodies that I know, or food influencers that I know, and also competitive eaters, it really is about just being very mindful about what you put in your body, how you're getting it out, kind of thing. I mean, I'm not the most active all the time. I try to, at the very
Hmm.
least, I walk, every single day for quite a bit. I mean, I love biking and but I'm not always able to do that. Whenever I can, I do. So I
Okay.
do try to do some kind of fitness. I used to really enjoy jogging, but
Okay.
somewhere along the way that I just kind of felt like maybe it might take its toll on my joints. I'll just stick to biking. A lot of it is just keeping a rough idea of how much I've ingested. If I'm making content, if there's a day where there was a time when I was doing food challenges,
Mm-hmm.
right,
I've seen them.
15-pound pizza or whatever. And
Yes.
so it's one of those things if I've eaten 8,000 calories one day, I'll try to balance it off for the next few days to keep the calorie count, somewhat reasonable. But once again, it's not a hard and fast regimen because at the end of the day, I still need to live my life, and also because I do occasionally have events day after day after day, or sometimes ever. So it's hard to manage that. I don't stress too much about it, but I do sort of keep a little bit of a mental tally in my head, and where I can be, and because the one myth that I do want to dispel, I think everyone thinks you exercise to lose weight. No, you exercise to feel good. The only way to actually, yeah, if you're looking to drop weight, the only way to do it is through diet. I hate the word calorie restriction, but that's really it. You can't exercise your way out of a bad diet. Keep that in mind. Exercise because it makes you feel good. You won't have achy joints, or muscles, and you'll look better in the mirror, I guess, to some degree as you're flexing your muscles. Pay attention to what you're putting into your body, especially if you decide to go down a food trek, you will be putting a lot of stuff in your body that might not necessarily be recommended by food guides. But it's not maybe not part of a balanced diet completely, but it's okay. Just everything in moderation. So if you go crazy one day, try to pick a couple of days where you recover from it.
Well, that's very validating because I'm like, either you have some insane metabolism, but it's good to know that you actually are considering that because, like you said, nutrition is the place where you keep your metabolism in check.
I mean, genetics does have something to do with it too, I'm
Sure.
sure, somewhere along the way. I'm lucky in the fact I'm Asian, so we just naturally, are resistant, it seems, to to some of those pounds. So that definitely, I mean, genetics, so I don't want to discount that. Genetics
Sure.
does make a big, difference as well, but it's not the end all be all everything. So you do have some control no matter what.
Yes. Okay. You mentioned food challenges. What is the wildest food challenge that you've done, would you say?
The hardest one was,
Hmm.
I think I told you about the 15-pound pizza that I had to try to ingest. That one they let me bring a friend too, and try as we gonna get through like half of it because it was enormous. Like 15 pounds doesn't sound like as big of a pizza as you think, but this thing is, I think they had to put together like six pizza boxes to be able to like even have it on, on something.
Is it just cheese pizza or did it have
Well,
toppings?
it had to have one ingredient, and we were stupid enough to put on pepperoni. We really should have gone with a vegetable of some sort to make it a little bit lighter. But each
Okay.
slice is the equivalent probably of a regular medium-sized pizza. So
Whoa.
like I just realized as I kind of did the calculations, I'm like, oh, so that was really painful. I did not want to see pizza again for a long, long time. It was fun, but and that's the thing that made me realize, no, I'm not doing any volume eating challenges anymore because that's just it's too much because you have to train. And I didn't properly train for that one. It just happened unexpectedly. So I'm like, the most painful one that I did, and that, like I said, that one was just uncomfortable. The most painful was the hot wing challenge, actually at Buffalo Wild Wing, with their Carolina Reaper sort of thing. So once again, it doesn't sound like a lot. You eat 10 wings in 5 minutes, and you can't have anything to drink. You can't throw up, you can't die. Like you just have to sit there and ride your way through it. And the one thing I've discovered with peppers, the ones that are naturally occurring, I want to say, they're hot, but they're hot at that moment and then they're gone. But for the ones that I want to say are the more engineered one, like the ghost peppers and above, ghost pepper, Carolina Reaper, pepper XL, stuff like that the heat from that, it goes on. I mean, first of all, your whole face is burning, your lips are burning, everything just hurts. And then you think the worst of it is done after you finish. No, it comes back like 10 minutes later, and then at least an hour after that, everything's burning even worse than it was before.
Oh gosh.
So that's my only yeah, so those are probably the two that stick out the most in my head, and the hot one is that's the warning I give everyone if you're doing a hot wing or hot something challenge, it's gonna get worse after you finish eating it. So yeah, but I find soda water really helps in those cases. Like everyone does milk, but I find
Mhm.
once you get into ghost pepper and above, milk doesn't do anything. Soda water was the one thing that somehow seemed to relieve my pain.
Oh, Interesting. I was just going to ask that. What do you take afterward? What is the solve for the body after having that much hot pepper?
Well, no, after that, you just die. There's no, because, well, I don't, this, I don't know if your viewers want to hear this, but because it also burns going out too. So keep that in mind. It burns just as much going out as it does going in. So
Oh man, what do you win? Did you win? Did you do it?
I won, yes, and
What do you get? What
you
is
get
it
a
worth?
headband. You get a headband.
A
Woo!
headband? Oh
Yeah,
man.
and a scoop of ice cream. So yeah, you do it for the love. You don't do it for.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Okay, well, speaking of pain, what is something that's been an obstacle for you? Can you tell me about a time in your life where you went through something, maybe you had a different expectation and
Mhm.
you overcame it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go back to my whole journey of becoming a food and travel content creator. And I said I hesitated. I didn't go when I really should have. Like, it was a clear sign. Hey, free trip to Egypt. Hey, do this. It was imposter syndrome, which is one of those things where I just didn't feel that what I was going to contribute would be interesting. I mean, and I just, who am I to decide that, hey, I'm going to put some content out there and people might decide to watch it and may hopefully be inspired. King, you're full of yourself. Go away. So, definitely imposter syndrome held me back from starting. I mean, it still pops up. I still feel like this is dumb, and I'm still working through it. It's often a fear of not knowing what's coming down the pipe because you're afraid that if you do something, oh no, what's going to happen? And so one of the ways that I've helped sort of push my way through it is I sit down and I imagine the worst case scenario of whatever it is I'm doing. Because if I already know the worst case scenario, like if the worst case scenario is that I might accidentally blow up Mars, everything else after that is not so bad, right? I kind of work it out that way. I was like, well, if I already know what's the worst that could happen, just avoid that and we're good. So that's kind of my way of convincing myself, calling on my own BS. Just do it because why not?
If someone was interested in becoming a travel or food creator, do you have any advice for them? You're kind of given advice throughout the interview. Is there something that we didn't get to?
Yes, I have saved the best for last, and
Ooh.
probably the one that's going to upset people the most. I mean, first of all, as I've said earlier, it's not glamorous. So anyone that goes into it thinking it's going to be glamorous,
Hmm.
it's not. I mean, you make it look glamorous, maybe on the screen, but it's going to be hard work. It's going to be a lot of unpaid labor. You're going to want to give up constantly. I mean, even when I'm on my paid trips, I sleep like 1 or 2 hours a night because on top of experiencing everything, I have to make content, I have to do stuff. It's a lot of work. And before that, you have to plan for it. I mean, and I got lucky in the fact that my first gig was paid. Most of this is unpaid because you have to build up your portfolio beforehand. Just keep in mind that it's not going to be glamorous. It's not going to be easy cash if that's why you want to do it. And that's true no matter whether you want to be a lifestyle creator or anything else. Like all of it is going to be hard work. However, for anyone whose hopes and dreams I haven't completely destroyed already, this consistency over everything, over talent, over production value, and also currently all the algorithms on all the platforms favor consistency because they want people to stay on the platforms to watch stuff. So the more stuff you pump out there, the more they'll pump it out. Consistency is the hardest thing because I know tons of people that are very, very excited about becoming a creator and they'll do it for like a few days, maybe about a month, maybe even 2 months. But then they start realizing this is a lot of work. At the beginning, you're not likely you will not get as much engagement. Who knows? Someone might be a prodigy and natural at this and they'll be great day one. But most of the time when you first start out, no one's going to see your channel. And actually, and I recommend if you do start it at first, don't tell anyone. Because when I first started my channel, I didn't tell anyone I did it because I wanted to see whether or not the stuff I was putting out was actually interesting. Because if I told my friends and family, they would artificially support me and it would skew everything. So I kind of threw it out there, and sure enough, no one watched, and and that let me know that okay, I need to rethink how I'm doing all this. But it was a fun process because then go through the process of learning and developing your voice. It's very, very important to just start developing your voice on there because you'll meet a lot of creators. There'll be aspects of you in real life that will transfer over into your online life, and that happens. But there are some creators that are completely different characters when they're on camera and off camera, and that's okay. It's fine. They've developed a voice and persona that works for them and works for their audiences. So, go for it. So definitely do, once again, like I said, consistency over everything. Develop your voice. Show your perspective on things. Don't just show the place that you're traveling to. Make people want to go there by showing
Mm.
them something about that place. If you're just gonna be a creator that says, "Here, look, there's a tree, there's the Eiffel Tower," woo, that's not gonna do anything. Anyone can take a camera and show someone a beach or a monument, but not a lot of people can make you feel like you missed out by not being there. And if you can connect with them and tell that story, and I mean, that's sort of where I've tried to fall into in terms of the content that I make. I always try to tell a story, whether it's about the place, whether it's about the people, whether even about just my own weird experience. Like I said, how I thought I was going to die in a neighborhood controlled by drug cartels. Like, it's just one of those things that you tell the story, and in some cases, tell your story, and hopefully it'll make people connect, see something there, and make them want to experience what you just showed them.
Okay, so that's great for someone who wants to be a content creator. What about someone who doesn't want to be a creator but would love a travel tip from you? What's one of your favorite travel tips for just the average traveler? You've been to so many places, you've been all around the world. Is there something, I know you mentioned a few before, is there something that's like your number one thing to share with other people about travel?
Yeah, the first thought that came in my mind, a lot of people have said travel is expensive. And so something fun to do and also cost effective, as I said, go on whatever site you want to do to search for flights and just search flights that go anywhere and then filter for the most inexpensive flight. If you're based in, New York, basically flights from New York to anywhere in the world, filter for the least expensive flight and go there. Do you know anything about it? Might you end up in Duluth, Michigan? Maybe. But hey, there might be something fun there. For anyone that's adventurous, you want to try something a little bit different because anyone could just plan a trip to Shanghai, but it's expensive to fly all the way over there. If you're up for some excitement and you're on a budget, just fly to the first cheapest destination that flies out of your hometown and see what happens. And like I said, at that point, do some research, see what's going on. Use all the AIs to, say, hey, I'm going on a trip to Duluth, Michigan. Give me a 4-day itinerary that includes all the favorite local restaurants and bars and whatever it is you want to experience. It might not be food, it might be music. You want to say, hey, I love jazz. Do they have any jazz? So whatever you want to do, start there. You could obviously do it the old-fashioned way. It's much faster just to ask ChatGPT or Gemini. And then, of course, you go verify to make sure, because they do hallucinate. And sometimes they might mention a fantastic club that doesn't exist. Go and verify it after the fact to make sure that it's there. But when people ask me, like, how do you find new spots? I'm like, by accident half the time. And also, when you get there, don't be afraid to talk to people. Even though earlier I said don't talk to strangers, you can kind of talk to strangers. The best advice I've gotten about where to go within cities that I've been in have been chatting with bartenders. And
Mm.
also, I travel alone, like solo a lot. Oftentimes I'll just go have a drink at the bar, whatever. And while I'm there, I'll chat with, the bartender, get their recommendations on things. And once again, they usually have the best recommendations, especially about food. The advantage too is that sometimes because it's a small world in that hospitality space and they tend to know everyone. If there's like a really cool spot that you just can't get reservations for, there's a good chance your bartender knows someone that works there and they might just be able to slide you in, because I've had that happen where they're like, well, what? Let me make a call. And they come back. They're like, no problem. You're on the list. I'm like, woo! Like, never underestimate the power of the bartender.
I love that tip. Those are great ideas. I love picking the cheapest flight and just going somewhere. That's really fun. Well, is there anything that we didn't get to that you wanted to talk about?
Good question. I think we've covered everything.
Okay.
I mean, if anyone has any questions that I didn't cover, feel free to reach out. Really, I just want to emphasize what I said earlier about consistency in terms of whether you want to be a content creator or not, it doesn't hurt for everyone to have some visibility on social media to some degree, just so you don't look like a serial killer. Especially, actually, well, anyone that has, if they have a professional career that they want to build up, establish yourself as an expert in your field by creating content. And it doesn't have to be you showing up on camera. There's ways of doing things that don't involve your face. If you're uncomfortable seeing yourself, once again, you can do what Jennifer's doing here with podcasts. If you're comfortable speaking but you don't want to appear, do a podcast. If you don't want to appear at all, but you like writing, especially on LinkedIn, you can publish an article there, about something that you know about. So there are ways of doing it that don't involve showing up on camera if you don't like it. But if you do feel comfortable on camera, do that too and just talk about what you know, and eventually you will be known for that. So, and only good things can happen from there, I feel.
Okay, great. Where is the best place to find you? What are your social handles? Where can we see all of this travel and food content that you make?
Awesome. So Instagram is probably where I'm most active right now. So the handle is TravelEat.drink. So don't forget the dot. I don't know who that guy is who doesn't have the dot. TravelEat.drink. But on everything else, it's Travel Eat Drink, so YouTube, which is probably the next place that's most fun, where I do have like longer form videos. Travel Eat Drink on YouTube. I got monetized last year, so I'm very, very happy about
Yay.
that. That was a long journey as well. I am on TikTok as well as Travel Eat Drinks, but I'm not as active. I really do need to get more on that. For the most part, across everything, just look for Travel Eat Drink and also traveleatdrink.xyz is the website for my blog. And all my links are from there as well. Go there and review the chaos.
Awesome. Well, we end each episode with this very important question. King, how do you take your coffee?
I take my coffee black, like my soul. I didn't always take it black, but somehow it just became that way.
That's also good for keeping your calories
There
intact
you
so
go.
you can eat a 15-pound pizza.
I don't recommend that. I really don't.
Well, thank you so much for being here with Jennifer with Coffee, and we'll see you next time.
And thank you so much for having me, Jennifer with Coffee. I'll see you all soon. Ciao.
A request before we take our breaths today. We're putting together our first Q&A episode, and we'd love to hear from you. It could be a question about your life or even something discussed in the podcast. If you feel like sharing, send your questions my way at Jennifer Lee Lauer on Instagram or email at questions@kingsofcontent.com. That's content with a K. So at Jennifer Lee Lauer on Instagram or questions@kingsofcontent.com. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. Finally, to end each episode, we take 3 intentional breaths together. Here we go. Today, we are going to take 3 breaths of forgiveness. Let's reflect on forgiving yourself or someone else. And we'll take our first inhale, hold it, and exhale. Another breath in, hold it at the top, and exhale. And one more breath in, hold it, and a long, slow exhale out. Today, can you find forgiveness in your heart and in your breath? Thank you for listening to Jennifer with Coffee. Follow us on Instagram at Jennifer with Coffee and on Substack. This has been a Kings of Content production. Music by Oreo CC.